Hi, this is Joe Tabanella with the Tabb technique. Do you ever wonder why sometimes we're able to achieve our goals almost effortlessly? It's not like we don't work hard to get there. We just we're on a track to get there, and we get there. And other times we feel like there's something in our way. We either seem to procrastinate or sabotage ourselves. And so I'm going to illustrate a model that shows how the conscious and subconscious mind works and why this is so important. So when we're born with a primitive part of the mind. This represents the mind. Now that primitive part of the mind basically has two very important functions, which is moving away from behavior and moving toward. So if we find out that electric socket is something that's dangerous, or if we burn our finger on a fire, we now know that that's something we need to avoid. And so it puts it here as away from behavior. And whenever we feel included, we feel comfortable, if there's dopamine released by maybe fatty foods or things like this, we get what's called moving toward behavior. And this automates our behavior. This is that feeling that we have when we can't figure out why we wound up at the fridge at 4 o'clock in the morning, or why we avoided going to that talk or that party or doing that public speaking event. Why we seem to sabotage things like this. Well, you see, from the minute we're born to about 8 years old, we're having these experiences, and there are positive and negative. But here's the important point. There are also negative experiences. And what that means is that when we have an experience that we haven't really learned from, we hold it in this part of the mind, and this part of the mind is the creative part of the mind. So for example, if we were confident and we were laughed at or told you're not allowed to be confident or certain, this becomes something we look out for and worry about. If we say, Mom or Dad, people can't ignore me, people can't think I'm bad or judge me, we spend energy in the mind thinking about those pictures all day subconsciously, and we try to change them. So the positive, which is now a negative positive as well as a negative negative, is just getting rid of that problem. So what we're doing is projecting these pictures out into the world and then trying to fight these pictures, getting a positive that just releases the pain or the fear or the stress response of this. And so once we understand that, whenever we put a positive in our minds, the subconscious is like a 3D printer. It will create it. This is how we got to the moon, learned how to fly airplanes, create a light bulb. Or this is how we achieved anything that we did effortlessly. When we learned to walk, we did this. So in this upcoming seminar, what we're going to be doing is finding out where our negatives are. The reason why these stay negatives is because we haven't taken the learnings. For example, fire. We know if you smell smoke, if you see an orange glow, or if things seem very warm or almost hot, unusually hot, we look around, and suddenly then and only then do we think about fire. Until then, it lives down in the subconscious mind as a learning, a negative learning. But if we're saying this can't exist, I can't have people judge me. Why isn't he or why isn't she loving me? Why can't I trust people? And we say that's not okay. It becomes a judgment about that idea that we spend the rest of our lives trying to fight. So we project this out into the world, we fight it, and we release. And we think that's pleasure. We finally got them to pay attention to us. We finally got the boss to stop yelling at us. And our lives become this loop. All of our unconscious energy is spent on creating this and fighting it, when we really should be doing this, being a creative rather than a reactor. And so what I'm going to be teaching you at this workshop Saturday is how to identify this, how to release it, so your subconscious is only filled with this, so that 3D printer can create in the outside world what you'd like. It works. It's not magic, but it's magical for sure. If you apply these principles over and over again, you will find that this, what's in here, shows up out there. I'm Joe Tabanella with the Tabb technique. I'll see you Saturday.